management, and why it is important, because of late there are a lot of changes have been happened, and these changes have really brought stress to the teachers. So but anyway, what we'll do is we'll go one by one. We'll again, as usual, we start with the basic processes, then we'll go to the teacher stress, where a teacher is facing the stress. From there, that point onwards we'll start. So we start with the beginning of the concept of stress. What exactly the meaning of stress? Stress is basically a kind of pressure which can be on a physical side, mental side, and the kind of emotional response where once a moment we start giving the response, it puts some what you call reactions from our body, which might end up in physical and psychological tension. So it is basically, it is a demand over us to perform something. But if the demand over exceeds our capacity, that might ends up in a technical aspect called as stress. So but remember, stress is a part of our life. Without stress nobody works, and as teachers, without stress we cannot what you call forward. So stress is must, but what kind of stress is important, how we can manage, that is more important. So we start with the what you call directly with the types of stress, which usually documented in research. So there are four types of stress usually we talk about. One is simple stress. Second one is eustress. Eustress referred as a good stress. Then there is a distress, again negative, and the last is hyper stress, extremely negative. So stress is, as I said, part of our life, but how much it should be there, that is more important. So we start with the simple aspect of stress. It's just a strain or pressure or an unpleasant emotion or feeling. So, for example, on a simple level, you are what you call, you are about to start to your what you call college, and suddenly you see your two-wheeler is punctured. Now that will bring some kind of strain, and this kind of bring will some kind of pressure how to reach in time. Or if people who are living in the cities, especially like metros or cities like Bangalore, suddenly you find that there is a traffic block, and the block lasts for more than 2 hours. Now imagine the stress which you have, because how to manage the what you call the yourself into the working system, because students are waiting and you are not able to reach in time. So this is called as simple stressors. And the stress can be not only from work side, it could be personal side, it could be interpersonal side, it could be on family side. I've just given one example. Then we go for eustress. Eustress, I will ask, usually we talk about the good stress, and this stress usually motivates the individual to perform better. So that's where what you call, when you talk about eustress, it brings positive changes in the person. Because this kind of stress will further enhances your performance, so that you can make a good name in the society or good name in the college. So for example, so taking self initiatives to do work, to involve actively in any work, it's a college related work. And nowadays if you find because most of the colleges or all the colleges have to undergo NAC accreditation, at that time they ask what you call, what are the best practices your colleges follow. So then you may have an innovative idea which is nobody has, and it is a stressful factor that you have to implement that, but you do it with the happiness and you get a lot of positive incentives. Then such kind of stressors will called as eustress or positive stress. Then there's a distress. Okay, this is where the negative implications would begin. So where you find it what you call, your body and mind are not reacting well with them, and now you start what you call responding negatively to the stressors. It's called as a distress. But when it comes to the hyper stress, where it completely beyond the control of a person, where an individual is pushed beyond he or she can handle the issue. So then what happens is, even small things when a person is hyper stressed might trigger small irritation can have lot of negative impact, and person might get irritated, person might attack others, and in such some cases person might even kill other person. Reason may be very trivial, but the idea is the person is under what you call hyper stress. But not a good idea to have get into hyper stress. Teacher should not get into. But before talking all that, we already talked about what is stress, what is eustress, what is distress, and what is hyper stress. But what are the possible stressors in day-to-day life? So we can classify under several categories. For example, physical stressors. Once you talk about physical stressors, it could be conditions, the stressors which are arising from physical conditions in and around us. That's basically the heat, the fire, the traffic condition, as I talked earlier, violence, suddenly violence outbursts, then you are a victim of it, or the own illness could be a stressor. It could be very cold, and how many of you know a person living alone in a cold region might develop stress and might end up in depression very fast. Noise factors, if you are living near what you call a high traffic zone, or you are teaching in a near traffic zone, the noise can be a real stressor. Poor working conditions and equipment. So usually what happens in most of the government sectors, they install things first, they put all the infrastructure first, but later there is no maintenance. Now that can be a big problem, because once there is no maintenance, and you find it difficult to manage with them, this might affect your day-to-day activity and you might get irritated. So these are the what you call stressors from what you call physical side. There could be in general socio-economic and political stresses. For example, unemployment. As a teacher, many of the teachers, I think you people are permanent people, but there are many people who are unemployed, or they have just part-time employers. For them, the employment status itself could be what you call a stressor. In inflation, day by day increase in the commodity rates and all might be a stressor, because how to manage day-to-day life. Cost of housing, you can't think of even buying a site or buying a house in and around you. You may have to go far off place to buy, and that cost might stress. Taxes, where a person like me pays around 33 to 34% of the tax, and that could be a stressful factor. Crimes around us, that's also one of the major stressors. Theft, burglary, what do you call cyber crimes, hacking, all those things might bring a stressor. Pollution in all the forms, noise, water, different kinds of polluters may bring what you call stressors. Then technological change also is one of the factors where these factors might bring stress. We'll be talking more about a technological change uh, under our new NEP scheme, where we are going to talk about how difficult it is for the person to manage the new UUCMS system. We'll talk about that later anyway. Then family, this is again a stressor for a teacher or any others, where we are going to talk about what you call family stressors. So the first one itself is the sharing of workload, especially in metros and all, where we talk about both the couples are working, and the working couples will have uh, problems with the sharing of workload, because they have to get up early and catch some vehicle and get into the workshop, and where they might come back later. This will have a lot of stressor, because and in between children are there, then one workload could be having lot of issues. Then jealousy, because your own what you call person is getting close friend is getting promotion and you're not getting promoted. This might indirect stress on you. Sex roles, where the management of sex roles, where a big question nowadays, because why husband has to cook and why wife has to go for a job. Now there's a sex role reversal is there. It is happening in Bangalore, where wives are working and husbands are cooking. So there could be a lot of stress how I to do it. Then value system, where value system day by day are changing, and we talk about next generation, or Gen X and Gen Y or Gen Z. Now, whatever Gen X says may not be understood by you, and Gen X is talking something else. The value system would have changed, and adapting to new value system could be another stressor. Death or illness in the family is another stressor. This has got a lot of negatives, because if a person whom you are loving or depending on too much, and if the person dies, and this has enormous impact and can bring a lot of stress. So this also there. Then money issues, because when you talk about the money issues, where money problem, because you know what has happened during the corona timings and all, some of the institutions never paid, some of the institutions paid only 50%. Now imagine managing the things. And for on a teacher side, fine, still we are managing. But if you have seen the latest trend in that corporate sector, where it started with Elon Musk. From Twitter, he started downsizing the employees. Now it is spread to Google. Now imagine, suddenly if they are what you call uh, unemployed, what is going to happen? The lot could be a money problem and all, which might bring a lot of stress. Then job and career, whereas the deadlines. Okay, nowadays we have this as a teachers. The deadlines, like, okay, NAC is coming, you have to finish. SSR has to be uploaded fast, and 7 criteria have to be filled fast, and you require to provide all the documentation. Now deadline can might bring the stressors. Muddled communication, because sometimes what happens is communication from the higher authorities is not clear, or communication getting from the lower side is may not be very clear. And because of the what you call, as we talked, if there is no clarity in the communication, that might bring the stress. Traveling time, as I actually indirectly mentioned, if people are living in metros or big cities where traffic congestion is a major issue, and this can affect the traveling time. Then the competition, sorry, interruption, because you are working somewhere suddenly. Nowadays, you know what are the things happening. Sudden transfer, or the transfer which is what is not expected, you get, you wanted in some city, you get in another city. So all those things are happening. So the interruption in your job might be having a problem. Competition, as I said, within the job there could be competition, that your own friend getting what you call upgraded salary, and you are still on the old salary. This might bring a lot of negatives in you. Power struggles, who should be the boss and who should be the follower, that could be another thing. Then educating and training, as we have to adapt to the new technology, where that has its own impacts. So all this will act as stressors from job and career side. Then interpersonal and environmental. So when we say interpersonal and environmental issues, now what value system would followed? Because if I want to follow my value system, what about my son? If I follow my value system, what about my spouse? Then obligation is another biggest thing, because sometimes you don't want to do things because of the obligation you have to do, because of the interperson, your boss or something, or your close friend, though you don't want to do, that will be there. Waiting time, this is not much for teachers, for others yes. Even waiting time can be a what you call big stressor. Poor service, so especially in government sector, what is going to happen is there's no maintenance, and whatever you ask will not come in time. And in your office somebody smokers are there, and how bad it is to maintain it. Then reckless driving, and social expectation, where you are not able to what you call fulfill that expectation, might bring in a lot of stress. Then we'll start with the stages of stress, how the person slowly gets into stress. We'll start with that. So this is a theory by Hans Selye, who is called as father of stress, where he talked about gas or general adaptation syndrome. He says there are three stages. So one is alarm stage, where in alarm stage the body prepares itself for facing the stress. Then the resistance stage, where now body tries to resist, where body tries to use all the resources from the body. Then once the resistance stage, if the person fails, that leads to exhaustion, and where the person loses completely the capacity of coping with the system, might end up with psychosomatic disorders. But what are the symptoms? That is more important. See the alarm stage. This is what very what you call, this is a crucial stage where you try to identify what is happening. Now, on a general level, once you start experiencing a stressful event or perceive something to be stressful, there are some changes would start happening in your body. So this will disrupt body's imbalance. So once it disrupts body's imbalance, now the body starts reacting to the stressor as effectively as possible. That means still you are managing the stress. Now body gives what you call the reactions, and that reactions can suppress the stress. Now what could be the examples? If the what you call issues are going to begin, the first one is a cardiac issue where because of the stressor there could be increased heart rate, there could be respiratory rate also would increase, and at the skin there could be a decreased temperature, we feel cold, that's the idea. And we call hormonal issues where adrenal rush we talk about, where adrenaline is pumped into the blood, and to counteract you require noradrenaline. But these are the examples where cardiac, respiratory, skin and hormonal changes would start begin. Because of, if the person is not able to manage that, now the person moves into the second level called as resistance stage, where our body tries to cope or adapt to the stresses by beginning a process of repairing any damage. So remember where in the previous thing, if I go back, there could be a heart rate increase, a respiratory rate increase, temperature decrease, and adrenal rush should be there. And if that is not managed, now the things would start begin. Now this may be noticed by your friends, family or co-workers that there is some change in you, that what is wrong with you, you are not in a regular mood or you are not in a regular routine. So if they start giving that feedback, try to understand that there is something is happening to you, something is what you call having a negative impact on you, so that indirectly they are giving a signal. So what could it could be the signals? Now the examples of such signals are, now the person loses interest in the family at the resistance stage, or even school or college where the person is what you call not interested in teaching or participating actively. There is a general withdrawal. Person may not even eat well. That is also a problem. Then not sleeping well also, what you call insomnia, lack of sleep. There could be hypersomnia, and this hypersomnia is nothing but sleeping too much. Then because of these things, there could be anger, there could be fatigue. All these things can happen. Then there could be cognitive indicators. What are the indicators which are seen is behavioral indicators, and these behavioral indicators are supplemented by the cognitive indicators, where you can see in the behavior there is a general change in the behavior, but what happens to the thinking part and uh, memory part. So because of the resistance stage, now there will be a poor problem solving capacity, there is a big confusion in the person. Then there are nightmares, suddenly person gets up with the sweat and all, where he's not over this one. Then hypervigilance, where the person thinks somebody is what you call, even if someone does something, you feel that the person is like you are more alert now, and because of this the person start losing his mental health. Now because of this, what all can happen? Now emotional indicators would come, where person might cry with the other person, there could be a fear response, there could be anxiety reactions, there could be panic reactions. Person might feel guilty because he is not able to do the job well, he might agitate, and person is depressed because the person thinks that he is not able to control the stress factor. And sometimes for small things he may be overwhelmed, and all these things will have negative impact on the person's psychosocial and biological aspects. If the person is still not managed, he ends up in the final stage called as exhaustion stage. So in this stage, what is going to happen is, if the stressor is not being managed effectively, the people are into stress, and if they are not going to manage well, now the person gets into the stage called as exhaustion stage, where the body and mind are not able to repair the damage. Now, in such cases, we say exhaustion stage, what would be the probable consequence? Now, all those things would begin, which people thought of: digestive disorders, withdrawal, headaches, tension, insomnia, loss of temper, where typically the person might end up with the gastritis, then withdrawal completely, headaches, especially among females, where the headaches could be either a migraine headache or tension headache. Then again, lack of sleep, the person might end up in sleep disorders. Then loss of temper is also can happen. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು copy, Naveen. So these are the things where slowly the person is moving into psychosomatic disorders. So we will move further. What happens where the studies have already said that when the person is under exhaustion stage, they are more vulnerable to disease, because again we talk about mind and body problem. I have to tell you, stress and what you call immune system are inversely related. Higher the stress, the immune system will become weak. Lesser the stress, the immune system will become more strong. So this is where stress and immune systems are to be correlated. Now, those with the type A personality patterns, I don't know how many of you know type A, type B behavior patterns. Type A pattern behavior are always restless, always working, where a type B is a relaxed kind of things, where type A personality is more prone to stress because they all the time they take stress. Then people, because of this, people who are at risk might end up with heart issues or cardiac issues, and these cardiac issues can have a lot of negative, nowadays people can what you call have cardiac arrest, so-called heart attack, or many other things which are related to heart ailments. And again it affects, because of having ailment itself could be another stress. Then peptic ulcer, or simply called as ulcers, okay, where ulcers in the stomach, and it is what you call happening because of the excessive secretion of the bile or digestive acid, might burn away the inner lining of the stomach called as duodenum, and thereby the person might end up with ulcer, a chronic condition, and it has to be treated, otherwise person cannot even eat. So there are so many such things where it can because it can affect the head, it can affect our heart, it can affect our lungs, it can affect our skin, it can affect our many things, and so much so that they are all interconnected. Because today we call what you call the new age diseases like hypertension and uh, or blood pressure and depression, as well as diabetes mellitus or so-called sugar cases, are increasing because of the stress factors. More than the genetic background, there could be more of stress factors which are having these issues. Now slowly come to the interesting point: stress among teachers. I don't know how many of you, those who adopted what you call NEP or National Education Policy of 2020, is anybody there having no stress with this policy? Please, you can speak about this. Anybody with the National Education Policy 2020 and not facing stress with that?
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Venkatesh Babu, sir. Go ahead. Venkatesh Babu, sir, you are mute.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
We have adopted the national education policy, but whatever you are saying is 100% true. when we started giving open elective for the students, we are facing a lot of burden, and it will be stress to every teachers. Till the day of examination, students doesn't know what is actually they are selecting in open elective. So this becomes a big stress to every teachers.
Sir, you are talking about only one part, because especially in Karnataka, what
Yeah, yeah,
happened
yeah,
was,
yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
happened
Yes,
was
sir.
the sudden implementation of national education policy, where majority of the teachers were not mentally prepared to receive it. That was the problem.
Yes,
Where
sir.
the majority of the
Yes, sir.
teachers were not mentally prepared or psychologically ready to accept
Yeah.
it. And even today,
Yes,
we
sir.
have problem with the UUCMS. Actually, the nodal officers are the victims, because I was a nodal officer
Yeah.
and I know how difficult it
Yeah,
is to
yeah, yeah.
manage. And suddenly there is a change in the curricula. That is another
Yeah.
biggest issue, where
Biggest issue.
suddenly people have got lot of things, and they said, okay, you teach them sports education, you teach them
Yes.
NSS education, you teach them yoga and meditation, whatever it may be. The idea is good. I am not against the idea of NEP, but how we are going about it is not in a smoother way. And even
Yes, sir.
entering the marks, entering the attendance, and suddenly you miss
Yes.
all the marks, and suddenly you have to
Yes, sir.
re-enter the data. So there are several things happened with the NEP. Again, I'm not against the NEP. I'm against how it is
The
being implemented, which
implemented. Yeah.
implementation part, actually none of the teachers are happy, because it has came as a sudden burden. Now we have to
Yes, sir.
face it. Now we have to face it. Now we have to do it. That's what we have to call this one. And UCMS portal, from admission to results, I don't know, by the end of the fourth year, or when the student finishes his fourth year, I don't know how exactly he's going to get his marks card. That is a stress
Yes,
for
sir.
the student then. So
Yeah,
there
yeah.
are okay, sir. So there are a lot of such things which are suddenly brought from the what you call NEP scheme itself. And if you do a survey, I think people wants to go back to CBCS system, or there are few teachers still want to go for annual system rather than semester system. But as your discretion. But NEP as such has brought lot of what you call stress among the teachers. Then along with that, the new curricula within the subject, now the content have been changed, the things have been what you call upgraded. But the problem is, when the state level committees are made, they made the syllabus and suddenly they implemented on what you call the teachers, without any textbooks or without any study materials. Now this is where teachers had tough time to collect the notes, a tough time to collect the learning resources, where they found it difficult even to teach. And I'm in psychology, and I got to know that many teachers said, what kind of syllabus you people are preparing, which we don't have now the learning materials or learning resources. So it is not teaching is difficult, but getting the materials for teaching is difficult. That also ended up in what you call stress. Then influence of androids. Now today what is happening is, students are inclined towards more androids than the classrooms. That is another thing, where the technology has brought them a lot of changes, and their interest is being diverted. So getting back to them to the class, though they are inside the class, they may not be interested in your class, because their idea is who is sending the message, who is calling, is there any upload, what you call, is there any Instagram upload, is there any Facebook message. Now since their mind is diverted, now it is where you find it difficult to manage. Because for example, if you ask the students write a what you call assignment, so earlier what students used to do is, they used to go to what you call libraries, then select 4 5 books, filter information from all the books and write. Nowadays what the students do is, they directly go to the Google, the ready applications are available, and they open the website, and the first website they find it, they download it, and they write it or print it, and they give it over. Now what kind of learning they have learned, and what kind of learning we have disseminated, both are not proper. And this might bring a lot of stress for the teacher, because you are putting your efforts best, but the problem is others are not receiving it. So the interest among students have been reduced a lot. Then change lifestyle. Because of invasion of digital media, because of invasion of new media, the lifestyle is completely changed. So much so that today, forget about students, we don't ourselves sleep for 8 hours. And even if we sleep, we don't get a good sleep. Several reasons, and several reasons have changed our lifestyle. Lifestyle could be in terms of what you call maintaining our diet. We are not least bothered. We are more bothered into what you call junk food. We are into more into westernized foods rather than our name foods or staple foods. It could be our what you call maintaining the body like exercise and all. We have completely forgotten most of, if not all. Then the health and hygiene part. Today, the recent literature from Niman says that 25% of the population in India, specifically in Karnataka, are affected by psychopathology. That means 1 in 4 is suffering from one or more mild to severe mental issues. 1 in 4. That is a quite a scary figure for us. So this has changed a lot in us, where the expenditure burden will be high managing the diseases, managing a psychiatrist. First of all, we don't find psychiatrists. So change lifestyle has brought. Technological innovation is another stress. This I want to highlight, especially when Corona pandemic began. And the first year we didn't do anything, but subsequently we have adopted online classes. But remember, these online classes were how much effective? Though you are trying to disseminate the best, and you know how your students are reacting to it. And many of the teachers could not adjust to the online classes, and there were complaints from the students. These online classes are like reading PPTs. The teacher simply read the PPT. Rather than explaining, the teacher started reading PPT as a ritual. Now, and some teachers did not take online classes because unfortunately they didn't know the technological change. So this also happened. So, and of course, a lot of other issues came like connectivity issues and all that's keeping apart. But the technological innovation in education technology has brought stress in us. And because of the technology, everything can be tracked, everyone can be tracked. That is quite what you call, people felt that even the technology is intruding into the privacy of the individual. That also what you call brought pressures. So all this led to what you call more stress among teachers, and because of all this, we are finding it difficult to manage the time. So the time management itself is the biggest problem for few of them, which again ends up in a stressor. So these are the few things where I talked about in general, which is a recent one. There are among stress, other stresses are there. For example, politics within the department, politics in the college might bring the stress. Somebody is trying to snub you, somebody trying to target you. That also can be there. So there are a lot of internal politics might bring in stress in the teacher, though you are very what you call sincere to your job, but there are many people might be conspiring and that might have brought the stressors in you. And sometimes there could be family stresses for the teacher where he is not able to manage his family well. Sometimes what happens, the son or daughter is what you call getting into a big education sector, and it might end up in lakhs and lakhs. So he might be having a problem. There could be a problem with the interpersonal relationship. Daughter is not listening, son is not listening, or the nearby and they are unhappy with you. So there are many such stressors might bring a negativity in the teacher, which might affect his or her performance in classroom situation as well as uh, other things. And another stressor from academic point of view is a knack. what you call accreditation, and every time during NAC accreditation you have to give your self appraisal. You need to have minimum number of articles to be presented. You need to conduct what you call few of the activities in the department apart from your regular teaching and learning sessions. So there are additional jobs have been assigned to you, where these kinds of additional jobs and additional requirement for your academic and professional development might what you call increase stress in you. So a teacher is also a normal human being. He's not an extraordinary person where he can take the stress as such. So we have to look into a teacher from these points of view also. So this is where stress among teachers can be seen. Then suppose if such things are there, what makes the event stressful for us? One is negative events which are happening in the college or at home or at the public might bring us stress. Sometimes you know that something is happening and you cannot have a control over that. Sometimes you have got ambiguous things where you're confused with the things, that also can bring you stress. Sometimes you are overloaded with the things. Sometimes what happens is there are no teachers, there is no permanent recruitment, and the recruitment is being delayed. So you have been put, instead of 16 hours, you have been put 25 hours. It happens in few of the colleges, and we are being overloaded. And along with that, at home also you have got overloaded. Imagine the a teacher's condition. So how to recognize the stress? This is more important as a teacher. The following are the indicators that where you can think that you are slowly moving into the stress. One is general irritability. You are now reacting in a very different way which was not there earlier. Your students might think that what is wrong with our teacher, because they see some change in you. So you get a general irritability. Elevated heart rate, unnecessary your heart pumps more, that leads to increased blood pressure. And for small things, now you feel anxious that what happens next. There could be trembling where there could be mild shake in your body or specific parts. There could be insomnia where, as we discussed earlier, lack of sleep because of stress. You're not able to sleep well. One of the types of headaches more predominant in female teachers, either tension headache or migraine headache can be there. Then slowly you might end up in pain in the neck or lower back. So it is not basically what you call the idea is because some your postures, because of the stress you might end up in back pain and all. There could be indigestion where whatever your what you call taken inside as a dietary food or food is not digesting you properly, might end up with the digestive disorders. And you lose interest in eating, and you start sleeping more in the early morning rather than night. So these are the changes which might bring you an alarming things that okay, you are slowly getting into stress, what you call stress. So be careful about that. If these things are there, I think it calls for some change in your lifestyle. So having all that, how to manage the stress, the second part of our talk, we are getting into the management of stress. So everybody manages the stress, but how to manage well, that is more important. Because there's nothing like one stress comes, it is over, then you go to the next stress. No, it's not that kind of a thing. It's a continuous process where a stress, one, there could be multiple stressors, they all come together. That time also you have to manage. But if you fail to manage effectively, that will have a negative toll both on our body and mind. So that's the idea. So what we do is different approaches we use. One is action oriented approaches. So there is a challenge or there is a stress, and we take action to tackle it. A simple one. So a simple stressor could be you are not finished the syllabus. Now, what the best thing is, you can take it as a challenge, take extra classes, and the stressor is over. Rather than thinking over it, I have not finished my syllabus, but take action. So where the possibility is there. Then you have emotion oriented approaches. Okay, try to change the way we perceive a stressful situation, where you try to connect with what you call emotions, but don't use too much of emotions, because people might you consider as a fake person. Because the first reaction towards the stress is basically you find is crying. And there could be spirituality where you put the onus on the god. that you indirectly say, if my stressor is relieved, I'll come and worship you, or I'll come and what you call, to a particular place and worship you. So that could be mentioned. And sometimes people accept the stress, and yes, this is happening to me, so I cannot do anything. For example, a stressor could be your own friend has got a promotion you have not got, but you know that why you didn't get. You accept in a positive manner rather than a negative manner. So that's acceptance oriented, where you understand why it's not happening to you and you accept with it, because you know that you cannot get it, rather than thinking or why I didn't get it, but what are the reasons for I'm not getting it. I think that can be a better way. So these are the simple approaches one can manage. So specifically when you talk about action oriented strategies, one thing is being assertive. Now this is one of the life skill also. We say assertiveness skills. Many times we do the jobs without our what you call approval, though we don't want to do, because just because we don't want to say no, that's why we are fixed, and that might end up in what you call a stress. So assertiveness training, what you call, learn to say no when you are really don't want to do. Don't accept it by force or for obligation. It has got its own implications. Reduce the noise, because another thing is noise factor is where if you think that you are affected by the noise, I think you have to reduce by either you have to take one or two measures. Then time management is very important, where many people have failed in this because of what you call uh, time mismanagement. People have ended up in stress. You can manage it better by having prior strategies and creating one's own boundaries. So understanding one's own limitations might reduce lot of stress, because many times too much of expectations can lead to stress, because when it's not happening, definitely it brings a stress. So don't expect too much. So understand your limits. The moment you understand the limits only this much, then you don't go beyond that. Then get out of our own head. That's also more important. That means what? Don't have too much of ego. The moment the person is flooded with the ego, it brings the stress, because you have to act according to the ego. The conscience will not work much, the ego will work. So you have to be very careful. Then emotion oriented, what you call, for example, why do you feel emotionally low? We call it as ABC technique. So in ABC technique, the using the word is, or the formula is, A plus B is equal to C. So for example, your friend turns you down for the dinner. Your close friend has arranged a dinner, and unfortunately you are not been invited. Now remember, if that is the case, now you think that no one likes you because your friend has not called you. You think that no one likes you. Because of this, what's going to happen? You feel sad, rejected, and alone for no reason. So rather than that, can you question back where the friend was busy and he may have forgotten his busy schedule that he didn't call you? So this is how you can think of emotion oriented approaches. Acceptance, as I said, you have to accept the things, and how it can be done much more very fruitfully. Diet and exercise, that is more important, because after some age the body requires what you call a minimal amount of food, and on an average a normal adult body requires only 2000 calories per day of food. But the problem is we eat sometimes 3000 calories, sometimes 4000 calories, or sometimes it could be more. And this extra diet will add as fat deposits, and that will end up in later high cholesterol and related issues. Then exercise. Usually they say per day 30 minutes to 1 hour. Rigorous exercise, it could be a simple walk, but a brisk walk might bring in a lot of change in you, might reduce the stress. Because many times don't even walk. All the time they depend upon two wheelers or four wheelers. So there's a minimal surgery, and sometimes if their what you call, their body posture is always on what you call, if they're sitting, then it's not a good idea. Then Sometimes because high stressor, you may have to go for a medication, and physical relaxation also important. And build your resilience, that's also important. And many times we don't even tell others what is happening to us. By merely telling what is happening to you with your close friend might bring lot of relaxation. So you use a word called as ventilation. So the moment you ventilate more and more, I think you get better. And try to get a forcible sleep. You exercise. If you don't get a sleep, go for a rigorous exercise which where the body is getting tired, and that might bring a sleep. So where you accept and continue these activities, definitely you can manage the stress. But specifically now, for a teacher, what are the tips where I can advise for you? For example, the first thing is a seating arrangements for some teachers, especially if the classroom is overcrowded, that itself is a stressful condition. So the seating arrangement, which is preferential as your taste, the preferential need not be in rows. It could be in a semicircle, or it could be three-fourth of a circle, where you can be in the center point and you can see all others. Where it could be a preferential seating arrangement where you don't have to look very back. That can bring a lot of stress. Then, what kind of proximity you maintain between? I'm not talking about the physical proximity. I'm talking about the psychological proximity, where how much you are really psychologically near to your students. The idea here is the psychological proximity makes a student more comfortable with you rather than physical proximity, because the psychological connections work better, because the moment that the teacher is teaching well, students will come in search and what you call. So maintain a good psychological proximity between you and your students. Then personal contact preferred. I don't know how many of you really remember your student's name, because by knowing each one's name, I think you are really comfortable rather than calling ABCD. I think personal contact. Then you have to usually discourage use of dual tasking like copying from board and listening. So usually what I say is, I say if I'm presenting a PPT, what I usually say is don't copy the PPT. That PPT will be given. PPT will be a copy will be given you to later after the class. So first thing is you have to listen. So that will be much easier, because you get irritated when you find that they are trying to listen as well as they are trying to copy the what you call content which you have written. Not a good idea. Avoid this dual task. So the moment you start avoiding dual tasks and students are more interested in listening to you, that brings some kind of change in you also. Then, as morning I said, avoid facing board and talking. You face the students and then talk rather than what you call facing the board, because that backing them is not a good idea. uh, because all the time backing, you might get some negative ideas in your mind. So better you face them and talk. Then to have a good interaction so that you can reduce your stress, you should highlight salient points to be discussed before the start of class. So usually some teachers, they'll say before they start, before they begin their classes, they would just begin like this: today we are going to discuss like this. These are the major things, where like it's like a headlines of a news, where you are going to say these are the issues we are going to discuss in next 1 hour or 2 hours, whatever the duration may be. So that's the idea. Then change in the style of teaching also important. You cannot be like the old style of, because now we have to move from chalk and talk to some other advanced technology. Earlier it was usually chalk and talk, means all the time you used to use chalk, use it on the blackboard and this one. Now the technology has come, you don't have to use much talk, but you can use technology so that you can reduce your stress. Then how you improve, that's also more important. You have to review your earlier material taught before starting new instruction, because how it can be connected, because suddenly you may not be able to connect to the new instructional material. So you have to review the previous one, then connect. And as a teacher, try to establish a listening environment. That is more important. You have to make your classroom comfortable. How you make this classroom comfortable? By giving examples, by giving advanced article information. It could be news, could be newspaper information, doesn't matter. So you have to make an environment where students should be waiting for more information from your side. That will bring lot of changes in you as a positive feeling that students are waiting, and that can reduce the stress. And you have to reward successes even if it's in small measures. It could be simple verbal appraisal where students are getting this one article happy about it, and that happiness might bring in happiness you also. And you have to avoid ridicule or failures yourself as well as to the students. Ridiculing, degrading, not a good idea. Rather than identify and solve it. Don't try to ever compare, because then there could be negativity, because each one of intellectuality is very different from others. It's all built up, mostly built up on genes. Our genes are not same, so each person tend to differ. Understand that, then you cannot compare. Then do not try to over demand from your student, because you know that student has got his own minimal level of intellectuality, where though it is maximized, still he has got a limitation. So understanding that itself and getting the work within that threshold can bring you a lot of amusement, and thereby it can reduce the stress. And to reduce your stress, what you can do is use peer interaction methods. That is more important. And all the time, you need not use talk and talk. You can use other techniques where the students can understand better. Multisensory approaches, we say audio visual. Then during communication, you have to highlight few of the things repeatedly. So once you start repeatedly highlighting the things, that will have a lot of positive impact on the students, so that they can understand better. And you have to develop listening skills. Now how you improve, you have to make it interesting so that you can convert it as a story. But remember, don't what you call deviate too much from your story, so that the content is what you call reduced, or content is deflated. So content must be there, but along with that, you have to manage that. Never use too much of force. That's also not good, because moment you start using force, you also get stressed. Not a good idea. Use a minimal force. Then sometimes all the students are not same. Some students take time to understand. For such students, if you give them extra time, really they are happy. Then I've already talked about calculators, tape recorders, and the thing to be used, or nowadays LCDs and this one you can directly connect online. Then we say develop individualized programs, because you cannot have what you call typical program for all. So the moment you start developing individualized programs, it invariably what you call has lot of positive impacts on each individual for the personality growth, and definitely they will remember you. And that remembrance, and when they acknowledge you, I think that can be a biggest stress buster rather than stress booster. Sometimes some teachers think that's a stress booster, but they are not. So how to manage? The next question is making making little changes in the life. So this is where it's very important. One teacher asked me in our interaction, sir, every day I get scolded by my head mistress that I'm coming late to the school. I'm trying my level best, but I'm not able to reach. I gave a little what you call tip for her. I said, what time you get up, and how much time you what you call take, and how long it will. Sir, usually I'm late by 15 to 20 minutes. I said, why? No, because of the issues, it will be 15 to 20 minutes late. I gave a simple tip: make a little change in your life. If you are getting up at 6:30, why can't you get up at 6 o'clock? Then she said, I sleep late. Okay, then sleep early for half an hour. So start making little changes that can bring what you call a relief. So that I asked after a few days, what happened to your routine? Now she said, I adopted your technique where getting up early, and I reach now 10 minutes early to the school, and others are coming late. My headmistress is happy with me. My stress is reduced. She has not made anything big thing. She has just what you call made a small change in her routine. Things managed. Likewise, the second part is learning to recognize. This is where I gave you tips. You should be knowing what you call something is affecting you. Now, once you know that something is affecting you, immediately start repairing that rather than waiting till the end. Because the moment you start waiting till the end, then the damage could be much more than expected. So we call it as prevention. So in medicine, we say prevention is better than cure. So prevent the things in the beginning only so that you don't have to wait for the end. So learn to recognize. And as a teacher, you cannot be what you call this thing. You have to always manage better. Now, when you talk about what you call taking a break, yes, you require a break. You want to go out and take a fresh air or gazing at a distance place. And usually in psychology, we say gaze to the greenery. Greenery brings a lot of relief. Now, you have to take a break, have a light talk with your colleagues, then again get back, you feel better. And helping others, even helping your own spouse, might bring lot of change in you, lot of good things in you, where indirectly, what you call, thinking that you are helping your family. Even helping your friend also will have what you call positive impact. Then you have to inform others that if I somehow get what you call get angry over you, don't feel angry about that because sometimes I have got that a condition. So inform others that your weaknesses, so that whenever you next time you what you call you when you are aggressive towards them, they will not feel much about it because you already declared that this could be your this one. You can slowly what you call reduce it. Then as I said, allow yourself to simply say no. Now when you say allowing simply to say no, we call it as assertiveness technique, where you are trying to say that it is, because sometimes it really affects you, because of the obligation you are doing it and you are not able to finish it, it affects you. So assertiveness training, saying no when you really not able to do it without any what you call hassles. So you can say yes only with the comfort, not with the problems. So learn to say no. That is also more important. Sometimes you have to be prepared because you don't know how the traffic could be, if it is a traffic condition or if it could be a family emergency. So this is called as what you call thinking much before. So be prepared. So think of the consequences much in advance so that you are already predicted this should happen. So you are mentally prepared to face it. Many times you are failing that. Then prioritizing. This is where a few of the fails are literally lost. Where you have to make a list of things, and within the list of things you have to manage which one is to do first, which one. So prioritizing, because some things may not be what you call prioritized at the beginning, they may be done even later. So you give the priority, rank number 1 2 3 4 to be done, and go by that. I think your stress will be reduced. Sometimes you may have to write down your feelings of sadness, because if you are not able to ventilate with others, mere writing on a book will bring or reduce your stress. Then you should be able to enjoy the life's simple pleasures, like even doing a small work or a gardening. And when a flower, because of your gardening, if there is a flowers, I think that is a happiness which you, because of you it has come. Simply dance, no problem. Listen to music, or usually go out. So I don't know how many of you know, any each person has got one inner child within you. Any idea? We call it as satisfying the inner child. Sometimes you feel like going on a mountain and what you call shouting. Do it. Some people might feel it what you call very funny that when the first rain comes, go and drench. Go and do it. Go ahead with that. Nothing will happen. You enjoy your those life simple pleasures. I do that. When the first rain comes every year, I go and simply drench myself. The pleasure is very different. I need not spend any time over it. Then share your talents. That is more important, because you have a lot of talents. Share them for the betterment of others. You get a lot of satisfaction that you are helping others with your talent. So don't keep the talent within you. Share them. So how to get fast into the stress management plan? The next level: exercise regularly. Whether you like it or not, I insist you go for exercise, half an hour to 1 hour. You have enough time. And have healthy eating habits. Avoid junk foods. Some people will skip breakfast. You can skip the night meal, but never what you call skip breakfast, because the meaning of breakfast itself is breaking the fast, because there's a long gap between the dinner and the breakfast. At that time, really system requires some good nutrients. So that time, never break the what you call breakfast. Then don't sit and avoid what you call video watching or mobile watching and sitting continuously, because some people have got the habit of sitting for 5 to 6 hours continuously and watching TV, or nowadays Netflix, or there are OTT platforms have come. There are what you call episodes have come, series have come, 10 series. Some people will not get up unless they finish the complete season. But that has got a lot of negative effect. And eating healthy, nutritious food. Avoid red meat. Use more greens. Yes. Then avoid excessive caffeine intake in any form. And some people have got what you call so-called quick remedy taking. What is this quick remedy? Alcohol. Or tension is there. By drinking alcohol, tension will reduce. It reduces temporarily, not permanently. Please try to understand that concept. When you say what you call reducing what you call the stress by temporary fixing the remedies, like using alcohol, not a good idea. Some people use drugs. That is also not good idea, because the moment the person starts into alcoholism and drug addiction, they have got long term implications, and these long term negativities on the body and mind might affect you, and you might end up with the additional pathologies. So be careful about that. And how many of you really enjoy the humor? When you talk about the humor part, all these humors will have what you call bring lot of changes. That's why you can find humor clubs. In nowadays, you can find in cities there are a lot of humor clubs are there, and these humor clubs, and there are in the TV there are a lot of shows. Nage Habba, they call it as in Kannada. So why you watch them? Why you crave them? So these give some kind of changes in you. That the pleasant feelings will emerge, and these pleasant feelings, if you emerge, there could be what you call happiness in you, and the more happy you are, there are happy hormones are released, and these happy hormones will have will have a lot of changes in your body, where your subjective and psychological well-being are being increased. So that's the idea. Then there are few exercises which I'm not giving to, because I require in front or your presence in front of me. But this PPT I'm giving to you to manage what you call these things, where you can practice at your home, like grounding cord meditation. Then shrinking stress. There are step by step I have given. We don't have much time to manage that, so you can read one by one and you can continue with that. Then erasing stress, you can read each one and you can practice that. Then color therapy, which is the tension release through color. Then JPMR, where you require what you call a kind of a yoga therapy, where progressive muscle relaxation is being done. So once the progressive muscle relaxation is being done, your anxiety and stress will be reduced automatically. But you require a few specific steps to be followed. That is also important. Then hydrotherapy, for centuries people are using this. So in hydrotherapy, basically it's a basically a kind of hot water treatment. And even in the regular hot water bath, there is a lot of relief, but that can be added by what you call alkaline bath, where a pinch of salt is added to the regular water, hot water, and that alkaline bath will have really a soothing effect on your body. These are typically used in saunas and baths, so which can alter our moods. Then music therapy, as already I have highlighted, music therapy also is one of the therapy which can reduce the stress. Then massage, where I don't know how many of you heard of panchakarma, where panchakarma is a ayurvedic procedure where it involves what you call initially with the what you call detoxifying the body first, then it's going for what you call body massage with the various medications, then it ends up in sauna and later virechana. So all these things will have will takes the toxins out of our body, and by reducing the toxins out of our body, your body feels lighter, and that brings a lot of what you call relief, and thereby also you can manage the stress. Aromatherapy, I think it's in this has been used especially in eastern parts like China, Vietnam, Thailand and all, where aromatherapy, at least if you have seen in travel and this one in those shows, where you can see that different kinds of aromas are being burnt, and the person gets relaxed, this one. Anyway, there are a lot of combinations I have given, so you can read that. Then acupuncture, where a specific part of the body, when you press it through a needle, where no blood will come, but that will have a stimulation to the brain. So by stimulating the brain, by what you call identifying the specific body spots, will bring lot of relief. Then flower remedies, where it's called as a Bach's flower therapy. If you have seen in again in the TV, if not in India, where while doing massage there will be a lot of flowers kept and with a lot of aroma background. So this is called as flower remedies also there. Then yoga, I don't have to tell because you are well versed in yoga therapy and yoga and meditation, where few of the yogic exercises really calm down the mind. And once the mind is calmed down, I think then you feel better. Then Reiki healing is another one. It's a kind of what you call a Japanese therapy, which has the meaning of universal life force energy, where the energies pass from one person to the other person. By that, the person feels little relieved. Where it's a powerful hands-on healing technique. People are there are Reiki healing practitioners are there. There also you can get some help from them. Then there are a lot of breathing exercises where relaxed breathing exercises. Again, I have given the steps, so you can read those steps and you can get some kind of relaxation. Uh, then these are the things we already discussed. And don't cling on too much of technology, because this can bring a lot of stress. So avoid that, and try to avoid the negative thoughts. The moment you have got more negative thoughts, one negative thoughts would lead to another, the second negative thought or thinking leads to the third, then there will be a series of such thinkings. Then because of this several such negative thoughts, ultimately you struggle yourself, and it might ruin your psychological condition. And when the psychological condition is being ruined, your physical condition also being affected, then there is a big problem. So having all that, okay, all this where practice well, then when you want to say no, again I'm reporting, please say no, because don't get unnecessary things and get into troubles, because unnecessarily you have what you call taken, and stress will taken over you. So don't be a perfectionist all the time, because being perfectionist might bring more stress. Learn to be flexible, because don't be too rigid in life. Yes, sometimes students are very irritative, arrogant, but be flexible, give them chance. Relax your standards. I know you are a very strict teacher, but not a good idea. Then you don't have to please others, rather than what you call try to please yourself rather than pleasing others. One more important thing is stay away from negative people, because these negative people will bring a lot of negative ideas. So try to identify them and live with the positive people. Then always live with the people who are cheering, who are trying to cheer you up, who are flexible and happy people. The moment you are surrounding with them, I think you will be much better. So with this, I'll be stopping my talk. If any questions are there, you have some more time I would like to give. So quickly you can ask few of the clarifications. The session is open now.
Sir, nowadays some of the children, they have attitudinal problems. So for small itty-bitty things, they go to the extreme step of committing suicide, sir. And once again, the teachers are blamed from the society, the management, nobody will support them. So what do you tell, what could you tell about this, sir? Teachers being assertive means, leaving them to their fate, whatever they do, let them go. Only curriculum transaction, limiting themselves to the curriculum transaction, not anything more than this.
Victoria madam,
Yes,
I want to tell something very serious about this. I think I blame parents for this kind of condition among the students, not the students by themselves. So
yes,
yeah, parents have what they have done is they have developed attitude. It's only single child, or most of the time nowadays is a single child. They just give whatever they want to give their child. The child is being asked, and when the child is denied of something, nowadays I find cases of threatening. Not only threatening the teacher, they threaten even parents. They so much so that they threaten that they leave the home. So I think the basic fault lies with the parents rather than students. For this, what your college can do is initially during orientation, I think it's not only just students have to be oriented, even the parents have to be called compulsorily and to be oriented. And whatever the do's and don'ts of your colleges or the protocols to be followed in your college to be very much communicated to the parents, so that parents will be having more vigilance over their children. Because as a teacher you have got hundreds of students, you cannot have control over all the students, but parents have got one or two children, so they can manage better. So that I think my idea would be involve even parents in the orientation program, so that you can say very clearly the do's and don'ts. And I know some of there are now the suicidal attempts as well as the suicides are increasing, because nowadays they are not focused.
yes.
They are not focused, and they have got a very vague idea about their future. So how to make them again? There could be some personality development classes, and of late I'm seeing there's a loss of morality and ethical values.
Exactly, sir.
Who will teach them morality and ethical values? The way the media projecting the things, the way the internet is being given to them, many times they have got better knowledge than us in few things. So who will avoid this? Who has to be blamed? So that's what I'm telling. I think at least some kind of reformation is required. Having the first thing is parent and student interaction, giving some kind of education which is psychoeducation in nature, and I don't say religiosity, some kind of spirituality to be needed, but I don't know who will what you call tie the bell.
Yeah.
So I
Thank you,
leave to
sir.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, any more questions?